Roberto A. Almodovar. Exactly 2,534 words. P.O. Box 1661. First North American Serial Rights, Klamath Falls, Oregon, 97601. Copyright 2009 Roberto A. Almodovar almodovar@gmail.com. God Lives. Chapter 1. In the year 2118 the small spheres 1 inch in diameter came hurtling over the crowd heading towards their single target. Security bots were able to identify and intercept most, but 2 got through and reached Fargalin Smith's personal shields. Each sphere exploded on impact, releasing liquid contents. The first splashed up against her face and neck, the second one hit her across the chest. The liquids began to drip down and coat her body. She reached up and felt her neck, could feel the slime but no apparent damage to herself. She looked down at her chest and could see the words God Lives stenciled across it in bright multicolored letters. The same message appeared across hundreds of individual droplets, and anywhere the liquid ended up. Shit, she blurted, the crowd becoming silent as she was quickly whisked away by her security. Fargalin sat across from her publicist as they sped off in the limo. She was furious. You don't have to fucking say it, she blurted, opening her window. Overhabe grinned. Look at you, he said, relieved, almost laughing, realizing she was perfectly fine. Fargalin throttled her shields and flashed white for an instant, which vaporized all the messages clinging to them. A puff of multicolored smoke streamed out through the window as they both waved the air clean. We should scale back some of your appearances, said Overhabe before they both broke out laughing. You know, said Fargalin with a smile on her face, those fucking God Lives throwers are some of my best readers. I don't want those throwers hurt or arrested. Let them go, at least they're not throwing rocks at me. Not yet anyway, said Overhabe, his smile finally disappearing. It's not rocks I'm worried about. Chapter 2. Fargalin Smith woke from her sleep, stretched and got out of bed yawning, and as she did every morning, walked over to her living room window. Her apartment faced east with a view across the bay. Spring was her favorite season of the year, and on this beautiful March morning the sun waxed and waned on the horizon as she took comfort of its rising. 50 floors below she could see the city quickly waking. The automatic brewer prepared a perfect cup and she inhaled its rich aroma, taking it deep into her lungs, anticipating the first sip of the day. As was always her habit, she checked messaging services, server accesses, and general information pathways for any updates or alarms. Check all, she said, quietly as she prepared her morning cup. A message flashed beneath the display and a whisper spoke to her. Only one new message, said the elegant female voice. Read, she said, taking her first sip. There is an urgent emergency communication to follow. We've finished our calibrations and will be in real-time contact soon. Please be ready. There was a momentary pause, followed by the typical end of message alert and a troubling credentials not available warning. Fargalin looked up at the screen from her coffee and read the message herself. There were no credentials. She didn't think a message could be sent without them. She would have her messaging addresses encrypted again. The God Lives movement always seemed to find a way into her private and personal networks. Fargalin Smith at the age of 50 had become the world's wealthiest person and well-known atheist on the planet, inheriting a personal fortune of over $500 billion and the sum total of her entire grandfather's estate. The great physicist Dr. Joseph Norville Smith, inventor of jump drive technology almost 40 years before, now being used in various forms by nearly every facet of society around the world. Fargalin held the patent that Joseph Norville never sold, and she alone was given the encryption key by Joseph himself. Without it, even a reverse engineering of jump drive technology was impossible. Still, this new technology didn't change the nature of people, only made it more convenient. Unlike her grandfather before her or the parents she never knew, Fargalin decided to make a difference in the world that her wealth would allow by giving it all away. She established the first Joseph Norville Smith Foundation food jump campaign, which quickly grew with chapters all over the world and supplied food, water, shelter, education, and medical care for anyone who simply asked for it. Hunger in the most destitute parts of the world had a friend, and in return Fargalin kept a modest apartment and a means to travel. Proud of the work she was doing, it seemed the more money she gave away, the more money there was to replace it. Soon other organizations were doing their part, and she was content to stay out of the limelight until tabloids gave her the title of God's angel on earth. At the start Fargalin felt it was rather humorous and felt it was a way for people to give thanks to her while taking jabs. But it horrified her when organized religious groups began using her name in sermons, claiming she indeed was sent down by God to feed the poor. Bastards. Fargalin often blurted with a smile. She had special sweaters and shirts made. The front said, "When I see pink elephants fly," the back said, "I'll believe." During her speaking tours and the book of the same title she managed to make enemies, so was born the God Lives movement. Fargalin stared at the mysterious message with no credentials, then called Overhabe. The next morning Fargalin woke to a live incoming communication. "This is an urgent communication for Fargalin Smith," said the black lettering on a white screen as the screen reader read the message. "My name is Dashurat Se," said the screen, "but you can call me Bob." Overhabe appeared at her door as quickly as possible, responding to Fargalin's latest concern. "Fuck. I had your messaging addresses changed hours ago," he said, entering her apartment. "Whoever this is might have inside access to the building and networks. So far we've been unable to trace the source." "It's unsettling," said Fargalin. She pointed to the screen of the infotainment center against the living room wall. Ovjeb motioned for her to reply. "Yes, this is Fargalin," she said as her screen automatically typed the words back. "Security breach scan in progress, locking down entire building, canceling all deliveries and transports," said the screen suddenly. Fargalin was confused about the message, but Ovjeb activated personal shields for her and himself and was stunned as he read the implanted corneal display through his eyes containing the same security message. The intruder had access and was tapping into his own security transmissions. They needed to keep him talking in order to find him. Fargalin realized this too. "Well then," said Fargalin, "you have my attention, Bob. What is this urgent message?" She paused nervously, taking another sip of her cup. "Particle destabilization is imminent. You must listen to me if you want to save humanity." Ovjeb glanced over at Fargalin, raised his eyebrows and gave her the look they had exchanged on many occasions. This was another member of the God Lives movement, perhaps trying to coerce a reaction from the most famous atheist on the planet. It was likely the session was being recorded somewhere. There was a slight pause. "I exist outside the boundaries of your universe, and you outside of mine," continued the screen. "I have found a method to save you." Ovjeb rolled his eyes and shook his head. This time they really had a crazy on the other end. "I see," said Fargalin. "So then are you not human?" she asked, not believing she was spending her valuable time talking with this person. The screen sputtered. Overhabe frowned. His people were still scanning. "No," said Bob, "not human. We thirst for knowledge. We too are curious like you. We are similar. Of all life that may have formed in your universe, it was your own technology that allowed me to find this system, this planet, and to the one human on the planet who I would trust with new knowledge. I come to offer some proof to you, scientific proof of the existence of something other than yourselves in order to save the best of the human race for history. You may not like it, but you will believe it." Fargalin glanced over at a frustrated Ovjeb. They couldn't find the origin of this communication. "Why would you want to offer us proof your existence, and save us from what?" replied Fargalin. "Show me then this proof, at least a parlor trick or perhaps a miracle." "No parlor tricks, no miracles, no religion, just pure science. In your universe 30 days will pass before everything in it will end. In my universe it has already ended." There was an uncomfortable but familiar pause in the conversation. History had heard the end of the world many times before by every religion, crackpot, zealot, and prophet since the first human mind gazed at the stars. The God Lives movement would try every trick to get Fargalin to bite and believe in an all-powerful God. If the world was really going to end in 30 days, I personally think it would be fucked, said Fargalin smiling. You understand the word fucked, right? I understand the word, it is what makes this moment truly amazing. We developed and perfected the hyperframe dedicated to the creation and study of life. Your creation is the most amazing event in the history of my universe. We've studied and learned all facets of your race, civilizations, and languages and practices. You are as unique in your universe as we in ours. Such living treasures must be saved from extinction. Extinction, so will it be God ending the world then, said Fargalin, or more likely another big rock from space, or better odds that some fanatic with a big bomb. It's not going to be any of those things, said the screen. If it's true, why tell me this at all? Why not just let it all blow up then? You are the one person well qualified to inform and save the best of you. You are the one person they would believe, and you are the one person the people in my universe will believe. Fargalin chuckled, said, I'd believe that pink elephants could fly if I saw one, so show me some proof. I understand. Ovahab monitored his screen in frustration while his team swept the building. The intruder simply could not be found. This stabilization run is nearly over. It marks a most important moment in time, the realization of communication with a created form of intelligent life, life capable of technology captured in the instant of a single controlled event. Fargalin and Ovjeb knew they had a crazy on the line. We are going to take a sample of humanity whether you believe or not. In 30 days the sun will be positioned directly over the equator at its farthest point from the planet. Our team will attempt to do a 24-hour serialization sweep while focusing on the dark side of the Earth. The optimum signal intensity of the sweep is 500 miles wide. Midnight would be the best time at any place along the equator. The closer to the sky the cleaner the signal. It will be best to get to the top of mountains, get to Quito Ecuador, get as many people there as possible. As for your proof, tomorrow, you will have proof, and only you will have the knowledge, and 29 more sunrises after that. We do not have the technology to extend stabilization. The signal began to break up and the screen started to flicker. It has been extra exciting and wonderful to have had this brief conversation. Please get to Quito. The screen went dark. Wait, replied Fargalin, hello. Are you still there? But she received no answer. She and Ovjeb stared at each other for a moment. What the fuck was that? She said to Ovjeb, followed by silence. Ovjeb broke out laughing, said, just for a moment that crazy bastard sounded pretty convincing. I'm going to have so much fun catching this one. He deactivated the personal shields and went about her apartment searching for hidden transmission devices. Chapter 4. The next morning Fargalin woke as usual to her morning cup of perfect coffee. Her infotainment messaging services had crashed sometime during the night and she could see the message queue was completely full. She went over to her window and looked out at the horizon, and although daylight had arrived she couldn't see her comforting sunrise. Looking down at the city far below she saw a long shadow of her building stretch east towards the bay, something she never remembered seeing this early in the morning. As she looked down, the streets below were filled with people looking towards the sky, and suddenly she realized that the sun was rising from the wrong side of the world. The sun was rising from the west. Fargalin was filled with terror, frustration, amazement, and joy at the same time. Her heart skipped a beat as her coffee cup fell to the floor. She questioned if she may have actually had a conversation with the creators of the universe, the closest thing to God that science could describe. Never before in the existence of humanity had the sun risen from the west. Something impossible happened so subtly to cause the Earth's rotation to reverse itself with no immediate effects on the oceans. The effect on people, plant, and animal life was instant, and the world was poised on the edge of chaos. Fargalin watched the fantastic sight, What more proof could she want? Shit, she blurted and began sobbing wildly. She couldn't stop the tears from rolling down her face. This wasn't some known astrological event someone could fool her with. It was real, and if it was real, that meant the end of the universe would be real. Feeding the world wasn't going to be enough, and in that moment she knew she had 29 days to get as many people to the equator as possible. Get to Quito, she whispered to herself. Epilogue. Bob watched with mixed emotions as the bang ended in the blinding flash of an instant. The temporary universe he had created had come to its natural end. The hyperframe powered down to recharge and became silent. He reached out with one of his many tentacles and pulled out a small stasis cube from the device. He stared at the cube with all four of his eyes and smiled. He was hopeful his team would perfect the deserialization process and that the life forms stored there could be reanimated in the real world. He was also hoping to speak with Fargalin Smith again. He had a favor to ask of her.